Welcome, everyone. Another honest conversation. What can I say? These talks have taken a life of their own, and I find that there's the more we ask, the more questions I have, and I'm very happy to have such great, interesting guests committed to talking about the issue of anti-Semitism, to bringing more views into this important discussion, since this problem is not going away. Of course, like, comment, subscribe below to the Jew Function channel, and send us questions or suggestions for speakers. We'd love to hear you. With us today, as usual, is Michael Laitman, Doctor of Biocybernetics and PhD in Philosophy and Kabbalah, author of more than 50 books translated into 18 languages, like a bundle, including like a bundle of reach, Why Unity and Mutual Guarantee Are the Call of the Hour. A lot of people are curious about the roots of Jewish identity and how they relate to what's happening today. And our guest today is going to help us unpack some of those concepts, I hope. I'm very happy to welcome a very interesting guest today. He's a computer scientist, a religious scientist. He's originally from Israel, but lives in Vienna. He works on interfaith dialogue between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and teaches anti-Semitism, religion, and fanaticism. He's the general manager of the Committee of Cooperation of Christians and Jews, christianundjuden.org, and he's involved with the EMJD, which is the European Muslim Jewish Dialogue. And lastly, which is where I want to start, he's a doctor of philosophy and Jewish studies with a special interest in the soul. So I actually want to attack this problem from this direction. Dr. Yuval Katz, very happy to have you with us. And tell us a little bit about, the questions that occupy you today, with respect to your thesis, and, kind of give us a little intro into what's on your mind. What questions are you battling with?
What interests me, so some of the issues that I've been dealing with in my research is the development of Jewish identity throughout the ages, from pre-biblical or biblical all the way to our days. And one of the prisms that interested me to look at how this Jewish identity is conceptualized is through this idea of Giyur, of joining the Jewish people. And of course, Giyur developed a lot in the last 2,000-3,000 years. And all sorts of things were added to it, all sorts of things fell away. And we saw all sorts of social elements and religious elements and soul elements, so to speak, coming in and out of this idea of Giyur. And so this development helps us to redefine or to understand how Judaism is defined. So because you cannot convert out of Judaism, so that is kind of not a good place to look at the borders of Judaism. The only way you can look at the borders of Judaism is when people come into it, when they make Giyur, when they convert into it. So that's an interesting fence, kind of, where you can actually look and see, okay, what's going on in this liminal place between Judaism and non-Judaism, and how is this conceived? Yeah. So this is the issues that I've been trying to think about and learn about.
So you're saying it's like the song, you can check out any time you want, but you can't never leave, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
So
the only way to, exactly, so like Hotel California, it doesn't matter how much you walk away from it, you can't leave. So the only place to check, how can I enter it, or where are the borders of this hotel, is looking at the people coming in, checking in, right? So that's the idea.
So I want to turn this to Dr. Laitman. Dr. Laitman, why can't you leave this designation of Jewishness? Like once you're a Jew, you're always a Jew. You can't leave. Why is that?
I
think that being Jewish or not being Jewish is a person's own choice. It is a daily choice. A Jew is one who is Yehudi, united with those who want to be Yehudim, united among them, in other words, Jews, yes, connected among themselves and connected with the upper force. They all think that their goal is to connect with the upper force, with the Creator, in equivalence of form, according to the equivalence with the inclination to connection and love. This is how Abraham, the patriarch, about 3,500 years ago or so, collected the people in Babylon and connected them among themselves only under this umbrella called love your neighbor as yourself. Those who joined him, Abraham's assembly, which he gathered from the 70 nations of the world that were in Babylon, he called them Jews, from the word yichud, united, because they were united among them in order to reveal the upper force, the force of love. So it would be among them, because love covers all transgressions, all crimes. They were all selfish, but they tried to unite above the selfishness, and that's how they found the force of love. And that force they called Elohim, God, or Havaya, etc. And that group, which afterwards went through the exile in Egypt, the exodus from Egypt, and everything we know from the Torah, etc. So that group is called the Jewish people. But the definition of a Yehudi, a Jew, is one who is willing to unite with other people without any relation to nationalities. Because initially, Jews had no nationality. It is a people that is not one of the nations. And it is united. Each person in the nation is united to like-minded people in order to find the common force between them, the force of connection and love. According to the motto, love will cover all the crimes, meaning all the differences. And that's how they come to a connection of love between them. This is called the Jew. Anyone can come into this, can enter it, but coming out of it, according to the definition of Jewishness, anyone can come out of it as well, can leave it. So basically, it is a group that exists very freely. It can be, they can be connected among them or not connected among them. Throughout history, we were connected among us, more or less. There were wars between us, civil wars, throughout the 1,000 years that we were in the land of Israel after the exodus from Egypt, until we were dispersed from there, and the land could no longer hold us in it, tolerate us in it. So according to the definition of, the true definition of Judaism, as it was in Babylon, those who are drawn to unite with all the others are called Jewish. Those who are not drawn to connection above their egos, despite one's nature, is not called a Jew. Therefore, entry into Judaism and exit from Judaism has nothing to do with the father or mother, but only according to a person's inclination in the heart. If one agrees to this definition and if one is willing to commit oneself to that goal or not.
This is a very interesting and radical interpretation of what I know in rabbinical sources. And of course, going into, although it's not, I mean, it's not unprecedented, but so interesting that he mentioned that Dr. Laitman mentioned the whole story of Abraham. So indeed, he's talking about Genesis chapter 12. It says that Abraham, when he left Haran, took the souls that they have made there. And it is true that in the Sifrei, the Tanaitic sages read that as he took those souls that he made, meaning the people he converted. And the Sifrei refers specifically to the word Giyur. So the question is, okay, so I understand so Dr. Laitman says you can come out and go in, and that's fine. The question that I have, which is what does it mean, this Giyur? So we know that along the ages in the rabbinical tradition, if we look at the Talmud and so forth, so there's a few discussions about that. So does he see still a need when going in to Judaism to have any kind of a ceremonial aspect that we know, Tvila, Milah, all Kabbalat, all mitzvot?
Right.
Or does he see it as a purely sort of a spiritual thing? And so you can ask somebody, and if they say they're Jewish, and it's fine. So that's sort of the question that I have in this.
Okay, so that's a good question. What does it take to become a Jew?
Well, it's a very good question. It's very serious. It's a little sophisticated and shrewd question. Because, first of all, I don't decide what happens today and how Judaism is determined today, whether you're a Jew or not, obviously. But we're talking about the basics. This is why I started from that. That, indeed, in those days, the days of the patriarchs, those things didn't exist. Although there was a brit, a circumcision, Sarah with Abraham, etc., and each one did it to his sons. But these are signs in the corporeal world that refer to the material, to the spiritual world. From the spiritual to the corporeal, yes? On the eighth day after birth, or the minute a person decides, when he decides for himself that he becomes Jewish, he has to go through the circumcision, the brit. This already comes from the sources. We see it immediately from Abraham.
So, no doubt. And I agree with you that the All Torah Mitzvot is a later addition from the Gemara. But so what you wrote in
לא, אני מדבר על עול תורה ומצוות, זה בשבילי זה דבר רוחני.
When I talk about the burden of Torah and mitzvot, for me it's a spiritual thing that Abraham started with it, that this is what he demanded from all those who wanted to join him in Babylon. The Torah or mitzvot, commandments, means you engage in loving your neighbor as yourself. This is the major rule of the Torah. The rule that Abraham demanded of all those who wanted to join him. The fact that he set up a tent and invited people over, passers-by, etc. It was all in order to explain to them the basics of Judaism, which is love your neighbor as yourself. Those who entered it did it. And the inner sign, the spiritual sign, that a person refrains, abstains from one's ego, from one's egoism. The physical sign is the circumcision. The physical circumcision.
I understand. So you wrote in the book Bundle of Reeds, so it's an interesting sort of relation to halacha, because you wrote about Mishnah and Talmud, which they have a spiritual meaning attached to their physical meaning. So the question is, in the future or even now,
Of course, there's no doubt that our holy fathers, our great sages of the Mishnah and Talmud, they wrote everything with the Holy Spirit, meaning they had spiritual sensation and awareness, not only in this world. And out of the spiritual awareness, they wrote what they wrote. We have no doubt about it.
Okay. All right. So the question is, should we still maintain both the physical and spiritual meaning? Because the physical meaning is ever changing, right? The Torah Shebe'al Peh, it's a oral Torah that keeps being updated according to the needs of the time. So where does this process have? Is it like Does it have a trend that you're seeing, like a way that it's going?
זה דברים ששייכים לעולם הזה, אני לא כל כך...
These things have to do with this world. I don't really deal with these things. I only focus on the wisdom of Kabbalah. According to my understanding, it should be done first and foremost according to the sources. Those who want to be connected to people, other people, under the condition of loving your neighbor as yourself, where love covers all the crimes. They are called Jews because according to this rule, they want to connect everyone, all of humanity. This is the meaning of being a light unto nations. And accordingly, we have to work. And that person will be called a Jew. And in the end, the whole world will be called Jews.
Okay, I understand. So you're talking about an integration of all nations into this greater idea, if I understand.
Yes, of course. It is written, they will all know me from the least of them to the greatest of them, and my house shall be called the house of prayer to all the nations. Of course, it'll be like that.
Okay. So you also write in your book about integrative education and this idea of learning, of teaching adults as well as children to live in a more integrated world. The question is, so, and you're talking...
Without it, we can't.
No, yeah, of course.
I said that without it, we're not even Jews. If I don't observe the Torah and the commandments, the mitzvot, internally to connect people among them, I'm not regarded as a Jew.
The question is, so you talk in your book also about a unity, but not necessarily uniformity.
So maybe, Dr. Laitman, you can explain a little bit how does this happen? How does this connection happen? Because when you look at the world today, many people try to kind of equalize everything.
I don't know. I don't get into these definitions of unity, uniformity. That has to do with a person's philosophy. There needs to be connection among people in such a way that they stop hating one another and come to absolute love. This is the program of nature that we have to achieve.
You described it as happening via integration and teaching for or education to integration.
Yes. This is what we deal with. It's called integral education. Well, basically, this is the correction of humans that we have to do. All of our work, the work of Jews in this world, is to educate people so that they will all know me from the least of them to the greatest of them, so that the Creator, namely the power of love, everyone will know it and accept its sovereignty, its governance, its authority.
Okay, interesting. So the question, what I'm wondering is about how to find the balance between the individual and society, or between the individual and the ideal. Because as every engineer knows, when you're trying to integrate stuff, when you're trying to integrate two pieces of software or hardware and so forth, if they are not built to be integrated, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have, and then you need to change one of your components. And the question is what is the best way, seamless way to create an environment where this integration happens?
By subjugating ourselves, and then the upper force creates a connection between us. This is all we need to do is basically yield, submit ourselves before the law of integration. It is an integration that you can see. In our world, you can see that whether we like it or not, our world is approaching a state of being a global world. And these are signs of the generation of the Messiah.
Hold on, Dr. Laitman, just because some of the things start to sound very religious, and I want to make sure that it's clarified what you mean when you say the upper force, the Messiah. Can you just qualify those things? Those are not religious terms, even though they're used by religious people, right?
Yeah, the upper force is a force of connection, even in our nature. Where nature is one system, so even in the nature that we are in, there is a force of connection that operates on all parts of nature, except we don't really detect it because we ourselves are broken, and therefore we can't and don't want to, because we are broken, to see the unity that exists in nature. The whole process we're going through is about how we attain the unity that exists in nature and in the upper force that governs nature and governs us. The revelation of the unity is really our goal, our task, which we must do.
So going to this topic of anti-Semitism, so the program. So the solution to that is by integration, if I understand correctly. Sort of in making
hatred to Jews will not stop until we open ourselves up to the nations of the world, after we ourselves have understood what is our task. And then we will tell everyone what is the purpose of the development of all of humanity on the earthly level and onward, above our worldliness, when we begin to attain higher spiritual levels. And that for this to happen, everyone must unite above all the differences. By this, we become Jews and Israelis. Israel means Yashar Kel, straight to the Creator, straight to God, directed toward the Creator, who is the same for everyone. And in this way, we come to a state where, as the prophet writes, they shall all know me from the least of them to the greatest of them, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth.
Yuval, you do a lot of dialogue work, interfaith. Is this something that is felt there in that work? Do you feel this is part of?
Yeah,
this,
I agree that. Also for me personally, meeting with, I sort of want to renege also about my sort of responsibility as a Jew, kind of, and Dr. Laitman certainly talks about this responsibility that the Jews have towards our fellow people, and the question is, of course, to what extent can Jews get away from that, either by stop being Jewish, like this was one of the ideas of Herzl, who came from Vienna, where I am, and he just said, okay, let all the Jews just go to the great cathedral that we have here, Stephansplatz, and when they leave out all Christian, the whole problem will be solved. So this was one of Herzl's first solutions to anti-Semitism.
What for? No, God forbid.
No, that's Herzl. That's not me. That's not me. I don't agree with Herzl.
Herzl.
I agree with Herzl. Okay, but the question is, but I think the solution here being offered is, and the question, and this is what needs to be sort of seen as, is it that in reverse, kind of the whole world becoming Jews, like you said, and then the problem is solved of anti-Semitism. And the question, and then,
לא רק בעיית אנטישמיות. כל
Not only the problem of anti-Semitism, all the problems of the world will be solved by that because we are achieving unity of the entire human system.
ולכן, כמה שאנחנו
And therefore, the more we advance in our evolution
את הקשר
without creating connection among peoples, nations, then Judaism will be more and more hated, and anti-Semitism will intensify to such levels
לא יאומן.
that it will be unbelievable. It will not leave us. On the contrary, it will burst more and more.
עכשיו גם כן.
And now, too, we are facing an eruption of anti-Semitism that is very, very dangerous.
indeed. But the question is if there is a place for the other to still remain the other. So in this integrated world, is there any room for non-Jews? That's my question, right? So if everybody becomes Jews, problem solved, okay. But if some don't want to become Jews, whatever Jew means, and it can mean anything. It can also, but whatever you suggest, I'm sure that there will be people who say, no, we don't want that. We want to remain non-Jewish, whatever, Buddhists or whatever, however you define Judaism. We do not want to integrate. We want to remain non-integrated. Maybe even ultra-Orthodox people, okay? We want to remain non-integrated. So the question is, okay, what do we do with these people? How do we refrain from too much authority?
You're right. They will stay out of the game. They will be the last to enter in being the people of the Creator, the ultra-Orthodox. This actually started in the days of Abraham, because people's egos didn't let them accept the condition of love your neighbor as yourself as the primary principle. What can you do? This is what makes us stiff-necked people.
I want to understand. I want to kind of frame it towards today. This is a special time. Dr. Laitman mentioned time of the Messiah, which we still need to qualify. We have all these massive changes. Coronavirus made the whole world kind of think in one direction. You have this rise in anti-Semitism. Where is it going? How do you see it getting better? Yeah, I'm asking you, what's special?
I'm asking. Yes. I am very happy that I'm living at such a time when even the forces of nature are beginning to force us toward a general integration. The virus that we're experiencing now, which is enveloping the entire world, is the first act that begins to bring us around the world into a common concern, although we still don't feel how it is setting us up as one yet, but it will teach us. There will be more and more waves. And in the end, we will learn that we are in an integral nature that requires that we become connected among us. Otherwise, we will be harmed big time. That's it. And in general, all those things that are going to happen now, the massive unemployment, joblessness, all the plans and systems that existed, these egoistic systems that have existed for the past 100 years or so, everything will just fall apart. Everyone will have no jobs. What will happen with us is exactly what we will need. This is what we'll have, just to exist physically on Earth. All of our other engagements will be only about how we connect among us to be as one man with one heart, with the Creator in between us, filling us up. And likewise, everyone will be. And this is our work, the work of the Jews, those who think they are Jews, those who are drawn to it.
This picture always, I heard this, several times, many times. I wonder, because both of you are people of, science, of systems. Are there parallels between what we see in human society and other systems in nature? Like, is there something we can learn from other areas that would help people see that maybe this is happening? Because I know it's very...
אני בטוח שגם כן החבר שלנו...
Of course, I'm sure that our friend will also observe it from within the system. We are all in one system. It's a circular system, an integral system that has to achieve internal balance. All of us, all people, and including the still vegetative and animate, we are like the entire universe. Everything has to move toward internal balance. And it can't happen unless we are all connected. And there can be connection only through mutual attraction, mutual connection. And here we have to rise above our egos in order to do it. And then we understand that our ego was not created for no reason. Yes, I've created the evil inclination, which is what the Creator says. On the contrary, He created it so that on top of it, we'll be able to set up our connections in a way that love covers all the crimes. And here is where we come out to a new state. When all of humanity finally achieves its final realization.
I want to know if there's something, somewhat practical that can be done, because I know a lot of people are trying to, I think, feel that need. I'm speaking to a lot of people. A lot of the people who've been here with us, they feel that need to be those catalysts of positive change, to bring people, to bridge, to build bridges above gaps. I see that, but is there are there some, maybe is it like an ABC, a manual that the wisdom of Kabbalah has to help that, to help build those bridges and make those connections that you're describing? Someone is listening to us and maybe he's, okay, what do I do? I want unity. Okay, how do I do it?
מדריך למשתמש זה רק חוכמת הקבלה.
A user's manual is only the wisdom of Kabbalah, because it talks only about connection and about nothing else. All the mistakes we make because we don't understand what it talks about. We think it talks about spirits and ghosts and demons and whatnot. It's not. It talks only about connection among people, only about that. So this is what we need. We need to set up the learning, the training, if you will, of connection within the people of Israel and in the nations of the world. And from my experience, I can tell you that I teach every morning thousands of people via the internet from every country in the world, including also countries like Iran, China, and anywhere. And it is thousands of people. You can come in and see. It's open to everyone. It's got translations and everything, simultaneous interpretation and everything. I think if we do this and open more and more such channels, we will quickly completely abolish anti-Semitism. Completely. If German people study with me, and French and Turkish and Arabs, well, everyone. So why not? Not to mention Jews. Thousands of them here in Israel and in America and Canada. I think there's no other approach, other way. Yes, Leo?
I mean, we've seen those, a lot of Kabbalah conferences with people from all over the world get together. I'm curious, Yuval, the people that you meet, the Christians, the Muslims that you meet with, do any of these ideas that were just brought up today, do you feel like they might resonate with them? Is this something that can be?
The question is, how do you approach this conversation? And to my mind, the conversation...
רק אפשר, אם אני יכול להוסיף, רק דבר אחד.
But if I may add just one more thing. The wisdom of Kabbalah says very simply, it is written that each one can remain in his corporeal religion, whatever it is. The wisdom of Kabbalah relates to corporeal religions as to customs, just customs. There has to be love your neighbor as yourself above everything, as an overarching rule. Please, Yuval, sorry.
Yeah, but this is exactly the where I think some of the crux of the matter is, because if I want to approach, so for instance, I was in dialogue with Turks, with Muslim Turks, and they said, no, we don't want to do interreligious dialogue because the word dialogue has bad connotations to us. And the question is, but for me, I want to have, or I think it is more respectful to have dialogue with people of other religions rather than a monologue kind of from my side to them, me teaching them. But, and the question is, because when I'm giving a monologue, I'm not giving them the space to exist kind of as an independent being. And I'm sort of just bringing them into myself. And I think a bit of tzimtzum here could go a long way in terms of having the humility sort of as a Jew or Christian or whatever, the people that I talk to, but also as a Jew, to let them have, like, I should make tzimtzum to myself and I should sort of give them space to be them and not try to tell them too much what they should do or think or whatever. I mean, for me, I think as a person who deals with interreligious dialogue,
I think that love does not put anyone under pressure. Each one advances in a connection with others, however he feels comfortable, without any pressure or obligations. This is why I think our approach, I see in practice what happens with us. We have millions of friends and students all over the world. They register for us. In just one morning lesson, I have approximately 4,000 people attending, and we can see them on the monitors. So I think that's the way we should go. And bit by bit, we will succeed. And also the development in the world with the coronavirus and everything will help us a lot. I was very happy to speak to a personality, to you. Please visit our site, and when you're in Israel, you're invited to our center. Please.
I have just before we close. We started this at the very beginning, Yuval, with your doctorate on the soul, and I wanted to ask Dr. Laitman about the soul. What is this soul that everybody, so many people around the world, if you can tell them about the soul, they'll forget about everything else. But so many things that this is just a fairy tale, and others think it's a religious thing, and others think, what is that soul that we?
The
soul is the force to give, the power to give that we receive above the power of reception. The power of reception is called body, and the power of giving is called soul. And we can discover it and acquire it while living here in this world, now in the physical life. And anyone can do it. So all the best to you, and let's hope we will be able to meet and speak, without the limitations of the corona. Thank you very much, and bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Laitman, Yuval. Thank you for being here with us. Another honest conversation. Like, comment, subscribe to the Jew Function channel for more conversations. I feel like there's a lot more to discuss, so I have a feeling we'll see another talk with Dr. Laitman and Dr. Yuval Katz. Until next time, everybody, please be well and have a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.